Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Fantasy Show Week 16. I am joined by Freddie, our usual host of most of the shows, but it's the reverse round this time. Both of us qualified for the playoffs and both of us got knocked out. How are you feeling, Freddie? Former two-time winner, no longer in the running anymore.
Oh, wow. It's been a turbulent fantasy season for me. And I was playing, how many of us finished 7 and 7? Like 5 of us, 4 of us?
Everyone from 5 down to 8, yeah.
So 4 of us. And I got to play the person who's been dominant all year and has only lost one game, has put up like 170 points every game. He actually had a really rubbish week for him. He had 120 points, but I had the exact same problem in the last few weeks that I had at the start of the year. Big players not putting in big performances, and that's been my problem at the start of the year. And then mid-season, I did some really good pickups, and I got some really good performances. And then in the latter half of this season, I've just the players that are meant to be top players for me have just downturned, and it was look at. If it weren't for a handful of wins at the end of the year, I don't reckon I would have made it into the playoffs. And a couple of results went my way as well, but. You know, you win some, you lose some. I'm fine with going out to someone who's only lost one game all year, and he does deserve to win it. Really, when you've had that good a team all year, you should feasibly go and win it. I mean, me and you are playing against each other this weekend in a consolation game, which neither of us care about. So the fantasy season is officially over for us in our own leagues, and also the Dynasty League that the Franchise Tag is part of. 5 Yard Rush got knocked out as well, but that's been a bit of an up and down year as well. And our team's not been the strongest this year. We were looking to get to the playoffs in that league as well.
I mean, with this, there's nothing to play for. It's redraft. I suppose there's still a little bit to play for with the Dynasty League, with the impacting on draft pick for the college players. But the semi-finals, as you've said, you lost to Rules Deep. You think he should be the overall winner. He deserves it. But of the other 3 left, do you think Adam has a chance of bouncing back and becoming a 2-time winner like yourself?
Adam has every opportunity because his team's definitely taken an upturn in the last few weeks, and big players are putting in big performances for him. And he's got like Christian Watson and that, right? Yeah. So players like that who are just upturning for him at the right time. I don't want him to win it again, because then 2-time winner, that dents my crown a little bit. And then obviously we've got Gareth in there as well. He can't win. He just gloats too much. And he's not had that, as much as he's gloated that much, we all ended on the same record. So his team was no better than ours at any given point. And he only just beat you, obviously, in the playoffs as well. But rookies in our league, well, rookies to our league, not necessarily fantasy football, always historically do well.
Always win it in their first year. Always.
Yeah, so that's where my worry is that trend will carry on happening. And then obviously your dad, Trev, is in it. I'd like Trev to win it. I would like, though he doesn't deserve to win it because Matt has been just a dominant force all year and has deserved, had such an amazing draft and has just been great all year. It would be nice for Trev to win it because it's been a while since he's been in the conversation. He's been at the bottom of half the table a lot of times. So it's his time.
For someone who puts so much effort into watching the college football and making sure he's got the right names on his mock drafts for the fantasy, he's struggled over the last couple of years, and he's struggled with the fact that the league's stepped up to a 14-man league and struggling with waivers. But he got involved in the trades a little bit this year. It seems to have, he
got involved in one trade with you, his son. That's it. Like, not that there was collusion because it was a fair trade, but it wasn't exactly like it. It wasn't exactly like he was putting trade offers out here, left, right, and centre.
He very nearly got a deal done with Adam, but he just didn't need the player at the time. He was offering wide receivers. I think my dad was stacked for wide receivers. So, yeah, I think he did try and get involved in one with Adam, but
his downturn has gone from abandoning paper and pen and doing notes on the iPad. It's since he's upgraded to the Microsoft Surface, just like the NFL. It's just all gone downhill. It's all just too easy on there. You have to put real effort in when it's pen and paper. You got, you get your. I was going to make a reference to what pencil, but an A2, is that a pencil? I don't know. Like
B2?
A B2, like the ones that stick out of Matt Patricia's hat. Like that. That's sort of look going on for him. But he does deserve to go far this year, and commiserations to the rest of our league who who put a valiant effort in, but failed to really. I mean, Tinch got to the playoffs. I don't necessarily think he deserved to get to the playoffs. I thought Johnny as well. He didn't get in there. He sort of maybe deserved it. I don't know. We're all very good players. That's what's the fun of it is it's really competitive and it's good fun, and it is sort of anyone's league every year when it is redraft, which makes it so much fun. So it would be really interesting if we do get a dynasty version of this league up and going, because I think a lot of people have learned. It sounds a bit ridiculous because we do have fun with it, but a lot of people have learned this year because of the growth league and how good everyone is at it now. Like everyone's learned that no one's going to be on the waves. You have to make trades. You can't trade rape anyone. You've got to look at the matchups more. You've got to take risks sometimes as well, and sometimes they pay off, and sometimes they really, really don't. And that's why we play the game, man. That's why we play the game.
Yeah, just for knowledge of how long the league's going, my dad hasn't won it since 2014. Just to go back to the archives. Consolation.
An 8-year drought.
Yeah. So anybody you want to see win the Sacco? I think, is it looking like it could be between?
Who's it looking like it's between?
Is it Byron and Matt Kirk?
My problem is because I've been so focused on the old on us at the top of the tree that I've not really concentrated on the bottom. So the consolation game now, well, no, because Matt Kirk and Byron have a bye week.
Is that because they lost?
Potentially, and then whoever loses the consolation game goes to that. But I think we've run out of weeks. Yeah, we've run out of weeks.
There's 1 week left, so I think Johnny's playing his brother for the top half of the wooden spoon, and Ben's playing Shank in the again. Yeah, if you look at the seedings of the bottom of the consolation bracket, it looks like the Sacco's between. I would love Byron to win the Sacco.
I would love Byron to win the Sacco as well, because it'd be from 0 to 0. That would be really impressive. That would be quite a downturn. A downturn I've never experienced yet, but I better hold my tongue a little bit because it might happen to me.
It happened
next
to me
year,
last year, mate. It happened to me last year. So.
Yeah. From experience, what's the feeling like when that happens? Especially when, like, obviously you're the commissioner of this league,
commissioner and I host a fantasy show. It's embarrassing. It's a struggle. It's really it's hard and emotional to deal with, but. It's a redraft. These things happen. I had a lot of injuries. Even we had Marcus Grant on, and even he said my team shouldn't have been in the bottom. So that's a pro. But we move on from our league. People don't want to just hear about that. They don't want to hear about how you've won it 2 times, Fred. They just don't want it. They want to know how they can win one more game to get to the final and push on. So that's what we're here to talk about. So let's get straight into it. I would usually have this part of talking about waivers, but I just think there's no point at the moment. I think your team's set, you're done, you're locked in with what you've got. You've made all your moves prior to this week. I don't think anybody's looking at anything on there. Maybe if you had Jalen Hurts, you now might be looking at a quarterback.
Purdy. You go and get Brock Purdy.
It's got to be now, hasn't it? It's got to be. We spoke in depth about it last week because there was lots of quarterback injuries and still lots of people in the playoffs. There was 4 names we spoke about, and Mike White was the one that everyone went for. So Brock Purdy is probably still on a lot of waivers. So we can nail that one in without it going into too much discussion about the others. So Fred, who are you liking at the quarterback position as a start this week? Who are you telling people to lock in?
So I actually have this player on my team, which I sort of didn't realize because now I've checked out fantasy football because I'm not going to win it. But looking at it, I think you got to lock in and have a look at Tua Tagovailoa. He's playing at home at Green Bay. If it was away at Green Bay in the cold, I could see why you would totally avoid him. The guy's not used to it. But Tua, he's only scored 15 plus points twice since the bye week, but that has been up against good defenses. Green Bay are a middle of the pack, not great defense. They've got too many good wide receivers against a Green Bay secondary that doesn't have enough good secondary players. Jair Alexander is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but when you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and a ton of other players that are very capable of getting down the field. I mean, Salvin Ahmed at the weekend, he did all right. Tua's got a real chance here, especially at home in the warm. And that might work in Green Bay's favour in a way because they might feel a bit more looser. But then that could mean that the offense is going to be chasing the game. But Tua, I think, has got a real good opportunity to put up some big points here. You got to look at Miami as well in the way of they are pushing for the playoffs here. They need these wins. And when these situations start to happen for teams like the Miami Dolphins, they're going to take the risks. Now, do they pay off for Tua? I think they do in the way he's playing at the minute. He's playing incredibly positive. Mike McDaniels is really enforcing the love around for Tua, and really, I don't know whether it is true or not, but it feels like Tua is his guy, and Mike McDaniels is ready to let Tua loose whenever he needs to. That's why he's getting the Pro Bowl votes he's getting. It's come out a lot this week, about how many Pro Bowl votes he's getting, because he's been really quality for Miami this year. And the quality can't stop at this point when Miami are in touching distance of maybe sealing a playoff spot in a really competitive AFC. Green Bay, they've got nothing left to play for now, really. They're not going to go to the playoffs, I don't think. They're in a bit of a mess, and their defense has been really lackluster. Though they rank, I do believe they are in the top. They're about 15th to 20th in passing defense. I still think Tua's got a real opportunity here. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have just been burning recently, and this is the final push for the playoffs. So he's gonna take them risks. He's a sure lock-in for me this week.
Yeah, this is a topic that I like to bring up in fantasy quite a bit. And it stems away from talking about NFL, and you can really get into the depth of things and how different fantasy is to real life. Because you're right, Tua Tagovailoa this week is a must start, and he's one of those guys where he's a must start because of the high-powered offensive players he's got, the weapons he's got, brings in more points. He just needs to get the ball in the hands of either Hill or Waddle, and they will make the points for him. We've said this in previous weeks about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, no one's saying, what an elite quarterback, what an amazing quarterback he is in the league. He's sustainable. But when it comes to fantasy, and you know that Justin Jefferson's got a good matchup, Kirk Cousins becomes a must start in fantasy. And that's why, for me, I've got to agree with you on Tua this week. You can't not talk about the offensive power they've got, and the fact that he's going to deliver, and they're going to get him the points. So fully agree with you there. Now, there is a match that I wanted to talk to you about, where I want to talk about both the quarterbacks, because one of them it's going to be a bit of a weird conversation. As one of them I'm on board, maybe being a sleeper, but the other one, I think I'm out on him now. Now, you might think I'm being biased. It's the Eagles at the Cowboys. Now, Dak Prescott, I just feel like he can't get it done. I feel like he's not getting the best out of his receivers. He's not getting it to them. He's not letting them produce the goods, like we just said with Tua. It's all run game now. The run game is what gets it done. And they're going up against a real tough secondary in the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm saying put him on the bench, because there's a lot of people that would have him in their team and still be relying on him. What are you saying, Fred, with Dak Prescott?
I mean, Dak, you're right. At the minute, Zeke and Tony Pollard seem to be just reigniting again. Now, I was really out on Zeke a couple of weeks ago, and I've been quite harsh about the Cowboys the last couple of shows, really, on the main show and on other podcasts as well. It feels like it's CeeDee Lamb or bust a little bit. I mean, Dalton Schultz has played well. I get that. But the Cowboys now, again, they're making that push as well to get to the playoffs. And you're going to turn to what your strength is in that team when you're pushing for that. And that is the run game with Pollard and Zeke. The only way that Dak gets big points in the throwing game is if Eagles shut that out first quarter. If Eagles just stop them first quarter, like they're capable of doing, then Dak is going to have to be forced into throwing. Now, that forces him to a situation where, what you said about a good Eagles secondary, good Eagles defense, like in general, like they are good all over the park. If this was any other week, and I had Dak in my team, I wouldn't be starting him against the Eagles, whether it had been week 5, week 9, or now, even though it's the playoff push, because we have to have them implications involved now when you're picking players. I wouldn't be playing him against the Eagles. They're too hot at the minute. They're too hot, and if they force you to do one thing, they will take advantage of it. If they stop your run, you won't beat them over the top. It's not like it's one or the other. If they establish a run game, they're going to run all day long. If they can get a running touchdown, or at least put some yards on the board in the first half, first quarter, they will turn to that. And there may be some play action plays, admittedly, and that's where you can try and get the points. But this is so dependent on the Eagles defense, and I'm backing the Eagles defense at the minute against Dak, especially in a divisional game as well, a heated divisional rivalry. They're going to be guns a-blazing. Eagles don't want to lose another game all year.
No,
they want to lose one game all year. They've already lost to one divisional rival. They are not interested in losing to another divisional rival, not at all.
Well, they want the home field advantage. They want going into the playoffs. And as you say, the only quarterback that's had any joy, Justin Fields had a bit of joy last week with his legs, but Dak is not that guy. So, yeah, I think we're right in that. And then let's give him his moment of fame. It looks like Gardner Minshew is probably going to start for the Philadelphia Eagles. Bit of Minshew mania. As you've just said, the Eagles don't want to lose another game. They've got great weapons. They've got great runners. They've got great wide receivers. Does Minshew slot in there and have a good game this week?
At this point, where if you are still playing, you're in playoffs, I don't think you can risk it, unfortunately. I just don't think he can. He's not played a snap all year. Yet he's similar. He can be similar in style to Jalen. He's got the legs fit. We've seen him do it with Jacksonville. And we've seen him produce some major, and he has that infamy, doesn't he, in the NFL community of Minshew mania and a bit of a gunslinger, but can do it with his feet. But, you want to go and win your league, you've got to go for consistency with your players. And unfortunately, Gardner isn't. It's just not been seen this year. We've seen it with the Eagles team. The Eagles team is very consistent. It's very good. And maybe that will elevate him because of just how good the Eagles are at the minute. But do you want to put your eggs all in one basket for a player that hasn't played this year? Yes, he has an infamy of being good when he does play, but again, though, he's been in training, he knows the plays, he's been there all year. It's not like he's a fresh guy off the street who's just slotting in for Jalen Hurts. He has been around the camp and he's been at training, so he knows what needs to be done and knows the players and knows the playbook just like Jalen does. Is he on Jalen's level? No, probably. Well, no, definitely not this year. not this year. But we could have argued if it wasn't for the year Jalen had, some people would put Minshew in the conversation with Jalen. I think that's definitely what some people would say. Ask Jacksonville Jaguar fans. I think they might have put him in the conversation with that. But the way Jalen's playing this year, he's just been so good. Do you really want to risk that for Gardner? This is like the biggest boom or bust. Like the biggest. This could be like 35 points. You fly into the final in your league, or this could be like 10 and you're like, why did I leave X on the bench? Why did I leave I don't know, not Kirk, why did I leave Jared Goff on the bench? That sort of that sort of thing. Like, you get Goff goes off and does that. It's too hard. You'd have to watch that game with hands over your eyes and just every moment having a little look just in case.
We just said that you'd sit Dak Prescott. Derek Carr's got a tough matchup against the Steelers, and Tannehill's got a tough fantasy matchup against the Texans. Would you gamble it? Would you gamble it? You go with no.
It just depends who you have. Like it just obviously depends who you have. If you've picked up Gardner, you are not trusting in your other quarterback, or maybe you're taking him off so someone else doesn't get him, I suppose. But
it's just situational, isn't it? It's just one week
situation
matchup, isn't it? The matchup, might suit him a bit better.
In the same turn of we were said about the Eagles defense being dead up for it against the Cowboys against Dak. You've got to say it's going to be the same thing for the Dallas defense as well. Again, a defense I've been quite critical of, admittedly, in the last few weeks as well. It's so hard in these divisional matchups. It's so hard. Giants, Eagles, Giants, Cowboys. It's the NFC East, really. It can be so difficult to call because if anything out of all these divisions that there are out there, these ones are there's heated rivalries, don't get me wrong, but I think these are like the hardest to call because we've just seen in history, the Giants have beat the Cowboys numerous times when they really shouldn't. Team on paper was nowhere near as good as Dallas, and that's happened multiple times. So in this NFC East division, anyone can win on their day. It's that competitive. The Commanders shouldn't have beat the Eagles earlier on in the year, but they did. This division, if there's ever a wild card, considering all the wild card implications as well, if there's ever a wild card team that wins these games, it's this division against each other. So it's a big swing, and if you're connected, you're running around the basin all the way home, but it's a little bit too risky for my liking.
And we'll move on to the running back position. Fred, what you saying? Who you got in that place?
I'm sticking on my theme of the final push of the playoffs. Really, I'm sticking on that theme. Maybe not with my with my wide receiver as well, actually. So running back, I've gone for Leonard Fournette at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not a player that maybe everyone's been screaming and shouting about all year, but he's done pretty decent. He's been fairly consistent in most parts. He's scored against teams that are ranked 20th and under against the run, 18.4, 35.9, 10.8. Arizona are currently ranked 26th against the run. And again, probably why I'm picking him a little bit, the Bucs really want to win this division because this division is just too hard to call at the minute. They have not performed well, the Bucs, this year. They have been nowhere near as good as they've been in recent years. But it's a massive question mark on the Bucs moving forward, really, because they have not been the team that they have been. But what's unfortunate for them is the rest of the division has pretty much stayed the same. In fact, they've dragged themselves down to the rest of the division's level, even though they should have absolutely dominated this division this year, and they haven't. The Panthers are creeping up on them. The Falcons are still in with a chance. The Saints are still in with a chance. It's really hard to call this division at the minute. And the Bucs, Tom Brady in particular, he's not a guy that goes like, give me the ball and throw it and we'll win. He's what's the best game plan to beat this team? And when you've got an Arizona team who are pretty decent in the secondary, they've got some names, Budda Baker, Byron Murphy. I like both them players a lot. And when Arizona are ranked so badly against the run and you've got a thumper like Leonard Fournette, yeah, they could rotate some guys in. I admit that, but I would be backing Fournette here. He can play. We know he can play. Maybe touchdown dependent. It might not be yards. It might be touchdowns for him, but he's got to be in there for me.
Yeah, it's similar to what we say every week with what they've got going on at the Lions with Swift and Jamal Williams. You put Jamal Williams in because he's going to be on those short yardage goal line plays just to get the ball over the line. And we all know that touchdown points is worth more than you running for 70 yards. So that's
it helps. It helps if you can do both. It helps if you can do both.
Yeah, but like you say, when there's other people in there and they're sharing the carries, you want the guy that's the one that's going to be punching it into the end zone because that's it could be big for them if they get down there a couple of times. He gets in twice. He doesn't need to do anything else. That's enough for him. So yeah, I like that start. Again, like you said, Arizona really struggle against the run. So good pick again, Fred. I might have you on again.
The only problem with this pick is Kyler's not playing. The Cardinals might not be good on offense. This might be that they get in front. Bucs get in front early, and Cardinals just can't recover. Now, that could be good or bad because they might just turn to running game and just run it down their throats. That might be a case. Oops, sorry, my battery's running low. Just give me 1 second to plug this in. So that might work against them. It might work for them because if the Cards then are really competitive against the Bucs, they will have to turn to the throwing game. So it could be tricky against the Cardinals, but either way, that defense in the front is so bad, and the Bucs, they may not have won games this year, and they may not have been that great. They know what they need to do. It's just execution, and Fournette's been in this league long enough to know when to execute. I would hope.
Yeah, it's another team, the Bucks, that need to win out to qualify for the playoffs. So they're going to be wanting to win. They're going to be firing on all cylinders. I like Colt McCoy as a backup. I think he's one of the better backups in the league for the Cardinals. So I think they might get a bit of a game out of him. But my guy at running back is a guy that is just fantasy gold when it comes to the playoffs. In 2020, the guy scored 28, 18, and 19 in the playoffs. Last year in the playoff, this guy pulled up fantasy points of 16 and 18. And this year already, he's already had a game of 21 points. And that is David Montgomery, a guy that middle of the season, people were out on him and said, no, we're not sure that he's good enough to lead a backfield. The Chicago Bears aren't good enough. But this guy, for me, is fantasy gold when it comes to the playoffs. He's the guy that could win you the championship, and you probably got him cheap. You probably got him on in a trade or off the waivers. So definitely for me, you got to be starting him. He's going up against the Bills. They've got a good front seven, but you know that the Bears are going to run. They don't pass, they run. And we've seen them get results against teams that are good at stopping the run. They're built to do it. So I'm in on him again just for that reason. Fred, I know it's a tough matchup, but would you put your stamp of approval on him?
I mean, the matchup would scare me. The matchup would scare me. But Montgomery is one of them players when I was doing mock drafts at the start of the year that I was targeting every time in like the third round. Every time he seemed to just drop there. I really like Dave Montgomery. I'm more in on him than a lot of people have been. Like people like him and Josh Jacobs are running backs that I've been in on when historically people have not been in on him. I mean, people are crazy in on Josh Jacobs now after the season he's had. But Montgomery has been sort of overshadowed in the last few weeks because of Justin Fields. But man, the dude can play. Yeah, the dude can play. Like he's a good running back. The matchup scares me, but I'd be starting him because you're right. He seems to start well and then end well. The Bears know what they're about now. Like that's you're correct on that. They run the ball very well, and they seem to have just gone. That's what we do well. That's it. Now they haven't got no Darnell Mooney now. Claypool's questionable for this week. I don't know how close he is to playing or not. So they're going to just run all day, whether it be Fields, Montgomery. I mean, they don't. Khalil Herbert will probably get some touches in there as well. I'd be going Montgomery. I wouldn't. And the matchup scares me a little, but Bills are in a quite good position at the minute for the playoffs. Yes, they are competing for home field advantage. Don't get me wrong, but I've always liked Montgomery. I've always been in on him. I really would love him on my team this year, to be honest with you.
Seeing what Raheem Mostert did against the Bills last week and was running all over them at the start of the game, I could see Montgomery getting just as much out of them. So that's why I wasn't overly concerned about being the Bills, but you've got to have that area of doubt when it is the Buffalo Bills, haven't you? But that's for me why I'm leaning on the towards the side of saying just start him. He's going to be great. Wide receiver, Fred, who have you got for us?
For mine's high risk, high reward. I'm going to go for Elijah Moore at the New York Jets, a player that I've really expected to have a lot better season than he did. It was just really Corey Davis taking a lot of snaps and Garrett Wilson becoming very good in the season as well. Now, Garrett Wilson is also someone who I would start as well. But now with Corey Davis out, Moore has like a real chance to stand out here. He only got 9.4 against the Lions, I admit. And you could say that Garrett Wilson is maybe more dependable, but I think they've had a rotating door of quarterbacks at New York this year. You know, Joe Flacco favoured certain wide receivers. Mike White has favoured certain wide receivers. Zach Wilson has favoured certain wide receivers. But I still don't think I don't have a narrative with Zach Wilson yet, again with who's his guy in a way. And I think Elijah Moore is really consistent. I think he's a really good wide receiver. Again, it's playoff implications. If the Jets really want to push for the playoffs, they are going to be trying to be clicking on all cylinders. Yes, that might not happen under Zach Wilson, unfortunately. And it is entirely boom or bust with Elijah Moore. I have to admit that. But he's a guy who could really stand out and be a diamond in the rough here. I can't think who they're coming up against. I didn't write that down, unfortunately. That's the one bit of information I did. Jags, yeah, they're coming up against the Jags, who are not good against the pass. Again, a team that will want to win the game and try and push to the playoffs as well. But Wilson and Elijah Moore could really be the standout guys here. But I think the focus is going to be on Garrett Wilson for that defense, as well as looking their run game. Now, Trayvon Walker is out this week, but they are pretty good at stopping the run, the Jags. But teams have put points on the Jags a lot this year. Jags just seem to have found their calling and been able to get some points on people as well and really step up. But Elijah Moore, he's a wide receiver I really like. I would have hoped that he flourished a little bit more sort of mid-season. That's where I think it is an incredible risk, because he was injured, and I really thought he would sort of transition into being a very good wide receiver for the end. I thought Corey Davis might actually maybe drop out a little bit, but I didn't really see Garrett Wilson being as good as he has been. And Wilson's sort of, has he faded out? Was he faded back in? He had a moment where he faded out, and now he's faded back in. I don't know where he's at.
Was only bad when Zach Wilson was the quarterback. He was great when it was Joe Flacco, then faded when it was Wilson. When they bought Mike White in, he was fantastic again. So
exactly. So clearly, there's an issue there with Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson being able to connect us, I suppose. So then, who does he go to? I mean, CJ Uzomah was a pretty good standout for the Jets last week, but I think Elijah Moore, he's a real good threat on the outside and in the slot there. So yeah, coming up against a cornerback group which isn't great for the Jags at all, and if they're without one of their key pieces on that defensive line, Wilson may find some more time to get the ball down to Moore.
I don't like Elijah Moore for this game because I personally think that there is some real big beef between Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore, because when they made the transition to Zach Wilson over Flacco, Elijah Moore requested a trade away from the Jets because he wasn't getting on with Zach Wilson. And I feel like that both Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson dropped off when Zach Wilson came in, and we saw Garrett Wilson play well last week against one of the worst secondaries, and they're playing and Moore didn't get the ball that much, did he? I think fantasy wise, I think he got you 8 points. I like your logic, and he's going up against the Jags, who are really bad in the secondary, so there should be points there. There should be. Moore is more than capable and talented enough to get the points in this game. I personally think there's beef between them, and that's why he asked for a trade earlier this year. And that's the only reason I've got I wouldn't potentially start him.
Out of the three I've said, he's my boom or bust.
He's definitely
I would lock Tua and Leonard Fournette in. Whereas Moore, I like the upside of it. I really like the upside of it. But I would be holding my breath a little bit. It'd be Gardner Minshew all over again.
Yeah, get that, mate. See if you can get hold of these two for this week and put them in your team for your match against me.
I already have Elijah Moore. I think I already have Elijah Moore, actually.
There you go. You just need to pick up Minshew Mania, and then you're there. So yeah, I would say Garrett Wilson again is a must start, but that's not advice in my eyes. The way that he's been playing over the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's a must start regardless. He's like Christian Watson when he first started playing well after his injury. We questioned whether it was just coincidental or whether it was going to continue. But when you're on a hot streak like that, you just continue to plug and play there. I've got a guy that I've got a few question marks against him. I'm unsure. He's almost as we're giving bad advice for the wide receivers. He's almost as much as a boom or bust as what you've just come up with, Elijah Moore, and that's Darius Slayton going up against the Minnesota Vikings, who again struggle massively over the top against these wide receivers. And we've seen Slayton all year get those big plays, those 50, 60, 70-yard catches down the field. He wins the ball downfield. That's what we know about Slayton. Yeah, it's been Isaiah Hodgins that's getting in the end zone for them. We've seen a bit of Richie James in the middle, but this is the guy over the top against the Vikings that are bad over the top.
I'm just trying to find his stats. which Wi-Fi doesn't want to. Now, as soon as you said Darius Slayton, when I was looking for his stats just now, the first name that popped up was Isaiah Hodgins. I was like, oh, I'd probably go Isaiah Hodgins maybe. It's worth the risk. I think it's worth the risk. I mean, against the teams that are in the bottom half against passing, he didn't start the year, but he got 14 points against the Jags. Admittedly, he only got 2 points against the Baltimore Ravens. He got 13 against Detroit, and he got 9.3 against Dallas. Minnesota are sitting comfortably into the playoffs. Again, I know we're a little bit broken record this week in terms of like you've got to look at if the team are in the playoffs or not, but that's the facts of it. The Vikings have won their division. They're not going to get home field advantage. Probably not anyway. I know they're in the conversation, but they're probably not. If there's one weakness of the Vikings, it is their deep. Yeah, people can score on their defense. People can score on their defense. Colts may have looked like the bad team, but at the same time, the Vikings allowed 30 odd points in the first half. So that doesn't make the Vikings great. It means it was just a miraculous comeback. I think Slayton is one where in deeper leagues people are going to have him and maybe have to start him in the deeper leagues because there might not be, or you might. He's definitely going to be the flex guy, isn't he? I suppose. Yeah. He's probably going to, he's going to be low down your chart. I'd start him. I would start him because the Giants are pushing for the playoffs. Now we talked about it on the Tuesday show. Saquon has been so great, but the play action Giants use play action a lot. They do scheme that. And Hodgins has been, on the receiving end of that a fair bit, but Slayton has as well. And I would take Slayton over Elijah Moore all day long in terms of like if we're talking you saying about it's comparable to my pick. I don't think so. I think Moore is a more boom or bust project really, whereas I think Slayton is going to get points this week. I could definitely see Elijah Moore just getting like 3 points at the end and going like, what a shit bit of advice that was, Fred. Whereas I can see Slayton getting 8+. He's going to get he gets 4 receptions and 50 yards. That's 9 points. He's got that capability about him. He's a player that's been underrated all year. Really, he's
not been fit all year, has he? So
he's not been properly fit, but. Where he was like a shining light for the Giants, wide receivers came in, wide receivers got fit, and he just got completely forgotten about and just got pushed down the pecking order, even though he was really good when everyone was out a while ago. And then they've all got injured again, and again he's playing well. Okay, he's not playing to the heights he was playing at. I admit he was playing at a really great level when 2 years ago it was, or whatever, when there was no one in the wide receiver position and everyone was getting injured. Whereas now he's playing pretty well. In deeper leagues, start him. If you're not in a deep league, then there's probably going to be someone else there. But I would like Slayton for this week.
Yeah, I think his average is 13 points. I think he'll match that or better. So that's always a good bit of advice in your flex, isn't it? We move on to the questions, Fred. We've just got time for them. We've got a few coming up. So first up, we've got have to fill a running back, wide receiver, and a flex spot. Choices are Latavius Murray at the Rams, Bam Knight at the Jags, Zay Jones at the Jets, Rashad White at the Cardinals, Juju at the Seahawks,
Jesus,
Donovan Jones at the Saints, or Slayton at the Vikings. So
I would go Bam against the Jags for the running back spot. I like that. I would probably go. Who's Cleveland got? Sorry,
the Saints.
Don't like that matchup.
We already said Slayton's a start. So
I would say Slayton. I would probably take Slayton over Smith-Schuster because the Seahawks have been really great in the secondary this year, but Mahomes is so good. So it's the same with the Browns, with him at quarterback, he's capable of getting the ball to him, isn't he? But I think you are going to go Slayton, and then the flex. Who we got left to pick from?
Well, I'd probably between the two. I don't mind which way you put it round. I'd probably put Juju and Slayton in, and then Bam Knight at the running back. I just think Juju's on the Chiefs, and I think any receiver at the Chiefs has got value. Zay Jones against the Jets. Jets good defense.
I don't like that.
Might get lost. White is going to share carries with Fournette. Murray going to lead the backfield. Mac took some carries off of him. But yeah, I'd go Juju, Slayton, Bam Knight.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
In your flex spot, who you taking? ETN, Montgomery, or Olave?
I know we've just said Montgomery, but who the Jags have got the God, we've just bloody talked about it. Jets. Don't pick him.
And the Browns for Olave.
Browns. I've got Olave. Ooh. I think I go Montgomery. No, you know what? No, I go Olave. I think I like Olave there, to be honest with you.
Olave is consistent. He gets you points regardless. We've said this. He doesn't get in the end zone, but he gets all the targets. You know, they're throwing the ball towards him at least 8 or 9 times, and he's hauling at least 6 of them in. So that's 6 points just from his catches, along with his yards. He's worth it. But I can't steer away from Montgomery. He was my stamp of approval. Must start, will win you the playoffs. So I've got to stick with Montgomery. But yeah, there you go. Advice: take which one you want. It's Olave or Montgomery. Needs 2. This is Tyler FF, the creator. Not the famous one. I need 2. Aaron Jones, Bam Knight, Brian Robinson, Zach Moss, or Cam Akers. Aaron Jones and Bam Knight.
Yeah, Zach Moss. No, I'd be out on Zach Moss. Who are the other 2? Sorry,
Cam Akers and Brian Robinson.
Cam Akers. No, Brian Robinson is just. I want to really like Brian Robinson, but Antonio Gibson shares the carries. He shares the carries. And I know Aaron Jones shares the carries with AJ Dillon, but Aaron Jones is a proven good
fantasy
player.
Yeah, he's good for fantasy. He's always good for fantasy every week. Even when the Packers are bad, he's good for fantasy.
And I think we are like the biggest podcast for like just absolutely pumping up Bam Johnson? Bam Knight. Bam Knight, sorry. Every time I watch the fantasy show, you guys are like really, really behind Bam Knight, and I am as well. I'm behind everything Jets at the minute. I'm so pro Jets at the minute.
I mean, they're through to their
he looks so good
4th running back, and he's just come on the scene and gone,
yeah, man. I mean, if you talk about like San Francisco being a team that can run the ball, like Jets can run the ball. They're so good. I mean, Michael Carter, Breece Hall, Johnson. They're really great, and Ty Johnson's not bad either. The other guy, I mean, they've got some good running backs there. Yeah, I like. He looks good. Bam Knight looks good. It's probably a massive factor that he's fresh. That's probably a big factor. He's fresh. He's not played the first half of the year. He's come in, and he's fresh, and he's ready to go. And he thinks
he's got something to prove, isn't he? He's a rookie.
Yeah. If I don't fall now, this might be my only shot. Now, I think if the Jets released him, let's say in the off season. I think loads of teams would be snapping him up. Like when you look at secondary running backs, him, like Jaylen Warren at the Steelers, like they're the two running backs for me. But if they come onto the free agency, would be like I'm definitely looking at either of them.
Well, they're not going to end up there, are they? They're on rookie contracts, so
no, they're not.
We'll be keeping hold of them for at least 4 years. Next one up is from Colonel 676. Wants to know whether we should start Evan Ingram or Darren Waller. Waller.
Jags v Jets. God, I keep just forgetting the matchups. It's Jags v Jets.
Yes.
Jags v Jets and Raiders v. Because we haven't talked about anything the Raiders this week.
We just said Derek Carr, a tough matchup. Who are they playing? They're playing the Steelers.
Oh. Stick with Ingram. I'd stick with Ingram. Waller's coming off of injury. The Steelers, though, are not good in the secondary. The Waller could be great. And if he's all cylinders rolling, he could be really good. But the Raiders have sort of found their game at the minute. And that's Josh Jacobs running, Devontae Adams. And they're not even doing that well at doing that in a way, I suppose. And Evan Ingram has been really consistent the last few weeks, like really consistent. He's riding on a bit of a high at the minute. And though I think it'll be like a tough matchup against the Jets, like, yeah, they are a hard defense. If there was anyone that was going to get in the end zone, it's Ingram out of all of them.
Yeah. Well, Trevor Lawrence is going to be pushing for more wins, and Sauce Gardner's not going to be marking Evan Ingram.
No, he's going to be all over Christian Kirk. So
I'd probably go with Ingram just because he's a bit more proven over the last few weeks. Waller's just had one game, 1 touchdown last week. So I'd like to say Waller based on his previous, and it would be a straight in, but we're asking that question because we're unsure of him. So go with the consistency. And that's all we've got for this week. That's all the questions. I'm guessing too many people are already in, too many people are out. So hopefully we've helped you with that. Hopefully, we've got two more games left of the league, and then it's all over. Then we'll be coming back with some mock drafts and some interesting things afterwards. So don't go away from it. This also is my last show before Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everyone. Hope you all have a good one. Fred, you're back tomorrow with Adam to do the preview show, get all your betting odds, win a load more money. Thanks for joining me today, Fred. Look forward to our consolation game this week. But thanks for joining me. Hope we've helped you throughout the season. Hope we've got you one more win. Thanks for joining us, and goodbye.